to this early evening session. So tonight we're just going to be looking at the section 4 of the manual for teachers, which is in answer to the question. Basically, it's the manual for teachers is an FAQ. It's the FAQs of the Course in Miracles. So this one's answer to the question, what are the characteristics of God's teachers? And so there's a little intro, and then there's actually 10 characteristics. We're not going to attempt to do them all today, but we'll cover just the first one, 4.1, which is trust. And then he goes into the whole teaching on the development of trust, which there's 6 phases to, which is really 6 phases of spiritual awakening. Just saying, this is what it's all about, learning more trust in spirit rather than the ego. So let me just we're gonna translate this as we go. So there we go. Let's just copy it and about 9 paragraphs, so let's see how we go in an hour. Okay, so there we go. So I think we've done this before. We've covered some of this might be somewhat familiar to you.
Okay.
As we've referred to it previously. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen and we'll translate it as we go. All right, share screen. Okay, so there's paragraph 1. So I haven't translated. So let's just read the alternative and then just translate as we go.
The surface traits of God's teachers of
God's would be.
Is it perfect love or is it pure formless awareness of perfect love?
Well, I think when it's a possessive, I think it's better to make it shorter, don't you? Because otherwise it becomes a bit unwieldy. Pure formless awareness of perfect love's teachers. So perfect love's teachers just is a lot easier.
Okay.
Sounding. So we'll keep it at perfect love's teachers.
The surface traits of perfect love's teachers are not all alike. They do not look alike to the body's eyes. They come from vastly different backgrounds. Their experiences of the world vary greatly, and their superficial personalities are quite distinct. Nor at the beginning stages of their functioning as teachers of perfect love have they as yet acquired the deeper characteristics that will establish them as what they are. Perfect love, or is it pure formless? I don't know which one I wrote.
Yeah, well, I think if it's not a possessive, if it's just
you
God,
just decide. I can't do the English possessive thing. I can't work it out. You decide which one it is.
Yeah.
Right.
We use the full form if it's just God, and the shortened form if it's a possessive, just for ease of use. So pure formless awareness.
Pure formless awareness. Perfect love gives special gifts to his teachers, to its teachers, because they have a special role in his plan, in its plan for advancement.
Yeah.
Specialness is, of course, only temporary, set in time as a what's that sounder there? As
a means of leading out.
of leading out of time. These special gifts born in the holy relationship towards which the teaching learning situation is geared become characteristic of all teachers of perfect love who have advanced in their own learning. In this respect, they are all alike.
Okay, and then the holy relationship. Do you remember what our translation for that is?
Wholly aware mind, or no?
Wholly aware relationship, yeah.
Right.
So it's when both people are wholly aware of the truth.
That's lovely, isn't it? A wholly aware relationship. I didn't know that.
Well, I think it makes it more accessible. Otherwise, it can be another holy relationship, and it's just another concept in the mind. But if you translate it into wholly aware, what it's really saying is, well, am I wholly aware in my relationship, or am I going into unconscious ego reactivity? And if both people can stay wholly aware, then it would be a wholly aware relationship, obviously.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I've not seen
aware
that.
of the truth. No, it's my own translation of it, but it makes it more practical. Because the danger with the course is you can trot the phrases up. Oh yeah, you're the holy relationship, and people speak to speak, but actually they have no idea what that really means. How do you actually live in a holy relationship? So a little bit of translation. It's wholly aware. Okay. So now it comes down to awareness again. It's my awareness in the relationship is critical. Both people's awareness, but it starts with me, because the unholy relationship is the other person must change. The holy aware relationship is, okay, I take the responsibility. My only responsibility as the miracle worker is to accept that one for myself, so I can change my own mind.
What's the relationship called where one is wholly aware and one isn't?
Well, I guess it would be a holy relationship from the perspective of the wholly aware one.
And a special relationship.
It would be a special relationship, which can cause difficulty, because those purposes don't mix. They're opposite. So in that instance, often what happens is the relationship breaks apart because they just can't sustain. There's this, the people, two people are so far removed from each other. Because it's a totally different purpose. The one thinks special relationship, thinks the relationship is there to meet my ego needs, and if you don't, then I'm going to be upset, and justifiably so. And the other one says, no, the purpose of the relationship is for us to grow in awareness and grow back to an awareness of oneness. That's the purpose. So very different purposes. So of course the outcome is going to be different. And every situation is going to be interpreted differently by the different people.
Sometimes you get relationships where one person does all the work and the other one's not interested in. They understand the bigger picture. They know they've got work to do, but they just don't do the work. So it gets a bit stalemate, doesn't it? Yeah,
and then often that doesn't, well, the person who's more aware then has a choice. Okay, do I stay with this and I use this as my spiritual practice? It is quite good spiritual practice, ongoing forgiveness. I know a couple of people like that who've made that choice. And then, the other choice is to say, well, it isn't serving me anymore. And I don't have to, there's nothing that says, on the level of form that you have to stay with the person. In fact, the last section, I don't know if you read that, the last section of the manual for teachers, they're talking about the 3 levels of teaching. You're saying, there are these 3 levels. One is just a casual encounter where you happen to meet someone casually and there's some kind of holy encounter, holy aware encounter. There's sort of a longer term relationship that lasts for a while, could be a few months, a few years, and then it breaks apart because the parties have learned what they can from each other. And then there's the long term where it's a lifelong learning situation, which would be very few. So he's saying, yes, in this world, you're not necessarily going to remain in relationship with everyone for your whole life, and that's okay. So
yeah,
you just have to be guided by spirit, really. Like what is actually for your highest good, their highest good, and there's no like absolute cookie cutter formula. Oh well, in this situation, do this, because the situations vary, personalities vary. So you have to just ask for the guidance in each situation and allow the Holy Spirit to give it.
Yeah.
So this is just the precursor. He's saying, okay, so these are the characteristics, the special gifts, which are temporary in time, set in time, but a means of leading out of time. And so he's describing these special gifts in this particular section. Okay, so happy with number one?
Yeah.
Okay. So number two is probably doesn't need any translation. Don't think all differences among maybe it does. All differences among the sons of God are temporary. So read the. Let's translate it as we go. So sons of God is
extension of perfect love. All differences among the extensions of perfect love are temporary. Nevertheless, in time, it can be said that the advanced teachers of pure formless awareness of perfect love have the other one.
Perfect, just perfect love. If there's an of involved, I think, because otherwise, it just sounds clumsy, doesn't it? Advanced teachers of pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's heavy on the ear, so you want the translation to read smoothly. So, and I think the short term is
It said that the advanced teachers of perfect love have the following characteristics.
Okay, so the first one is trust. So whack that in there. Trust. This is the foundation.
The definition of trust.
Yeah. Well, let's see what he has to say about trust. In fact, let's translate it as we go. So let's whack it in there.
Trust is firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. Firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability. Okay.
Okay, so let's translate as we go. So trust, this is the foundation.
This is the foundation on which their ability to fulfill their function rests. Perception is the result of learning. In fact, perception is learning because cause and effect are never separated.
Okay, do you understand that?
Which bit?
Perception is the result of learning. And then he says, in fact, perception is learning because cause and effect are never separated.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
It's collapsing it and saying, actually, when you perceive correctly, that is your learning. True perception is the learning.
Yeah. The teachers of perfect love have trust in the world because they have learned it is not governed by the laws the world made up. It is governed by a power that is in them, but not of them. I love that. It is the power that keeps all things safe. It is through this power that the teachers of perfect love look on a forgiven world.
Forgiven world, translation of that,
letting go world.
I think a world released. A world released is what it means. A world released. Okay. So,
governed by a power that is in them, but not of them. I really like that phrase. It's a good one to feel, to experience. Reminder.
In them, but not of them. Hmm.
Mm.
So it's not of you because you're not its source. That's what he's trying to say. You're an extension of that source, so it's in you. But if you think it's of you, then of course you're in the ego because you separate and you've created your own little power center in your mind. Said, I'm the big cheese now. I've created myself.
Mm.
Whereas with this true power, there's a humility because you realize that the power is in you, but not of you. You don't own that power. You don't control it. You are just allowing that power to come into your mind and direct your thoughts and your words and your actions. So you become, just the instrument of this power is working in the world.
Yeah. It makes the world look very different, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Some people report back to me how they see the world, and I think, goodness, that's not how I see it. Blimey.
Hmm. Yeah, it changes your perception, and perception changes behavior. So, and it changes experience. Perception is experience, isn't it? Your experience in this world is perceptual. So you change your perception, you change your experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why this mind training is so powerful, because you change your experience. If you fundamentally change your thought system, you fundamentally change your experience of everything. You're looking at it from a different point of view.
Mm.
So, when they say life changing, that this is actually what it means. It's not, I'm going to change the form of my life. It's I'm going to change the way I perceive the world, myself and the world. That's the real life change.
Yeah, when I have clients that see the world so differently from me, it's fascinating just to listen and to not contradict or try and change their mind or anything, just seeing their worldview. It's like, Jesus, that was really scary, really unsafe. What an awful place to be, scared of every eventuality and every possibility. It's like living on a knife edge. I don't try and contradict it or anything, but by the end of the session, usually they're in a different state. You go, you're on my wavelength again. Good. Like a radio, I tuned into the horror channel.
And it is if you haven't done mind training, which most people haven't, then you're going to be tuned in to this very fearful perception of the world, because that's what the ego sponsors. If you haven't done the mind training, then your thoughts are mostly egoic. And so I think most people go around in their lives with this continuous anxiety. Is this going to work out? And continuously thinking, is it going to work out? And what can I do? Am I safe? On and on with these anxious thoughts, and no trust. There's no trust. You can't trust in this world because everything's changing all the time. So they're looking for some kind of security in a world where you'll never find it. In the changing illusion, and until you start to look in the right place, which is within you, you'll never find it. You're doomed to be an anxious, fearful, afraid, scared, often quite angry, resentful. But all of those things go with fear. That's your lot in life, and then you die. Brilliant! What a great plan that was. All that angst, and then in the end, it's a dash between the date of birth and the date of death. All of your worry is that. It's extraordinary. You actually think of it, contemplate it a bit. Someone's entire life, all of their emotions, emotional drama, their problems, difficulties, challenges, sins, the guilt that they felt, the sin, the fear, attack thoughts, and everything the egos have invented is in that dash. That was their life, and it's all gone now, which is liberating. You go, well, it couldn't have been real then. If it was real, it would last, it would be permanent. But it all just is very temporary and it fades away. It can't have been real. So maybe what's real is the flat line, the dash, that's just the flat line piece, the base state. Maybe that's what's real. Well, we know it is, but if someone is not connected with their source, then that it starts with that question. Well, maybe there's something else that's real, and they're willing to consider it. And then slowly, go more into that and let go systematically and progressively of egoic thoughts, which is what he's going to talk about now in this development of trust. It's like how this progression actually works, and how it unfolds for us on the path. So path has once been experienced. Okay, so moving on to paragraph 2. When this power has once been experienced, you want to read that?
When this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? Freudian slip there. And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of perfect love are laid before him? And what is it that induces them to make the shift?
Okay.
Yeah. What does induce them to make the shift? Good question. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But you'll notice the parallels between this and the hero's journey are there. So I'll bring up that diagram and we can just.
Oh yeah, I didn't translate ego, did I? Belief in separation.
I like that, the shabby offerings. Remember, I was driving through a couple of years ago. I was driving through kind of a very shabby part of town in Johannesburg, and I was looking. I was going, that word shabby. I was just like, yeah, well, this is the the shabby world of the ego. It's just shabby, and everything's kind of degraded, and nothing really works properly. And so from that point of view, it's actually quite helpful to be living in a country where things are falling apart, because you don't have the illusion that it's all working, because it's clearly not. Whereas I think in a more first world country, people can have the illusion, oh well, everything's okay and it's kind of working, and because on the level of form, stuff does work better. So come to South Africa, great spiritual practice. The lights go out all the time, stuff doesn't work, and so you have to go, well, the level of form doesn't work. You start to see that. It's a great lesson.
Are you appreciating everything working in England then?
It is helpful on a practical level, because imagine if we had a power cut now, I'd be in the dark. Then okay, you've still got battery power, but often the internet is then dodgy using a mobile signal, and so it's not that reliable. And if it happens too often, then the towers go down because they've only got so much battery life. So then they go down, and then there's no internet either. So it's like, how do you operate in an environment like that? It's extremely challenging. Whereas at least here you're like, okay, it may be cold and wet and it's winter, but at least there's power, which is on a practical level quite helpful if we're doing Zoom calls and things. Okay, so what is it that induces them to make the shift? Let's see what he has to say. So the development of trust. This is effectively the spiritual path, saying this is how the path unfolds in this development of trust, trusting in spirit rather than yourself, and this is then the spiritual path, spiritual awakening that he's describing. Okay, so first they must go through
First, they must go through what might be called a period of undoing. This need not be painful, but it usually is so experienced. It always makes me smile. You're going to change that.
Yeah, it is usually so experienced. I think it would be just a bit easier on the tongue.
It seems as if things are being taken away, and it is rarely understood initially that their lack of value is merely being recognized.
So this happens a lot, doesn't it? I mean, you probably see this with clients. Things happen, and it seems like they're losing something. They've lost some form. It's a relationship comes to an end, a job. Maybe they have health challenges, financial challenges. Something's ended in the dream, and it seems like they're losing something. That's the initial perception, and then they seek some kind of guidance or help from someone like you or some kind of intervention to try and help them make sense of it. So that's where we start, and we've all been there. A period of undoing. The perception of loss is quite dominant in this first phase.
How can lack of value be perceived unless the perceiver is in a position where he must see things in a different light?
So should we change that to awareness?
Okay. Things in a different awareness. He's not yet at a point at which he can make the shift entirely internally. And so the pain, so the plan sometimes call for changes in what seem to be external circumstances. These changes are always helpful. When the teacher of God, when the teacher of pure love has learned that much, he goes on to the second stage. Yeah, it's funny when it's happening, you even if somebody tells you it's for your good, it's for you, for you. It's so difficult for the person going through it, isn't it? But then when you've been through it and you look back, you go, oh, I see why that was helpful.
Because it was, when we look at the hero's journey, so I'll just pull that up quickly. Where's that gone? So it's just bring up my diagram. So try a message. So somewhere here, there we go. Click here, 12 steps of the hero's journey. So there's the diagram, which I can blow this up a bit, zoom it out in a bit, which details the 12 stages of 12 phases of the hero's journey. So it starts in the ordinary world. Things are, the status quo. That's usually the first 5-10 minutes of a movie. And then you get something changing the status quo. Inevitably, something goes wrong, doesn't it? Otherwise, there's no story, there's no movie. Something changes, and that is a call to adventure for the hero. So often that's, something's been lost. You think of most heroes' journeys in movies, work this way. So in the Star Wars, the first one, A New Hope, Luke Skywalker, who's the hero, he's okay. He's in the status quo. He's living with his aunt and uncle on this desert planet, and he's like, no, I don't want to leave. They need me. I need to be here to help them out. And then he goes back, and the stormtroopers have burnt. They've killed his aunt and uncle, and they've burnt his home down. So it's like, well, there's nothing to go back to. So now that looks like loss. Or you could weep and cry and say, like, I've lost something. Or go, okay, it's a call to adventure, to leave this and go on this adventure to become the Jedi, which is the Christ in the Star Wars. They just call it Jedi. This higher consciousness, and save the world. So it often starts with this something apparently going wrong, and you're apparently losing something. But when you realize, okay, this is actually helping me, it's pushing me in the right direction, then you move on to the next stage because you've accepted it and you're no longer in resistance. So it's important that you go, okay, I'm willing to see that this is actually helpful and beneficial, because then I can get out of my resistance and going, why is this happening to me? You know, and then the whole victim story, and I can move to the next stage. Okay, so happy with that one?
Yeah.
So next, the teacher of God must go through. Trust. Okay. Do it again. So edit it as we go. So next, the teacher of
Pure love, perfect love. Next, the teacher of perfect love must go through a period of sorting out. This is always somewhat difficult, because having learned that the changes in his life are always helpful, he must now decide all things on the basis of whether they increase the helpfulness or hamper it. He will find that many, if not most, of the things he valued before will merely hinder his ability to transfer what he has learned to new situations as they arise. Let me think about that for a minute.
yeah.
He's got to decide if they increase or hamper. So it's just discerning. Yeah, right. Okay. Because he has valued what is really valueless, he will not generalize the lesson for fear of loss and sacrifice. Yeah.
A classic, you know, well, an example of this. The other day, I remember we were talking to Lynn, and said, "Well, I apply this to some things, but not to everything." So this is what we tend to do. So instead of going, okay, across the board, I'll apply to one area of my life, but not to another. So it's not generalized yet. Because what we fear to lose is the ego. If we give it all over and in every circumstance, every instance, then the ego has no traction at all in our mind. And so these exceptions that we tempted to make are how it maintains itself. It'll allow you to do it in one area of your life, but not in another. And somehow keep them apart. And you don't recognize that that's actually a contradiction in terms. You can't actually live in an integrous way by, you know, behaving in one thought system in one area of your life and another in another. And there's a split and a contradiction, which causes internal conflict. And the resolution of the conflict is to generalize the lesson and get over the perception of loss or sacrifice. Because remember, loss and sacrifice are at the very core of the ego. It's the foundation of the ego's dream is loss and sacrifice. Because at the beginning of when we split, the thought of the ego was, I've lost this, I've lost oneness. In order for me to have my identity, I win my identity at the expense of oneness. So something must win and something must lose. And that's the foundation of its whole thought system. You see that? Based on substitution, this or that. So in order to have a special identity, I must let go, I must destroy, we think we've destroyed it, the oneness. So something wins and something loses, therefore there's the idea of loss when you get the game of duality appearing as a result of that fundamental split in the mind. Okay, we'll continue.
It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. It is only to the extent to which they are helpful that any degree of reality should be accorded them in the world of illusion. The word value can apply to nothing else. Only to the extent.
What's he saying there?
It's only to the extent to which they are helpful that any degree of reality should be accorded them. So I suppose if it's not fully helpful, you don't have them in your life. Even if it's just slightly helpful. So it's a bit of fun going on Facebook and having a little play on there, but overall it's not helpful and doesn't move you forward.
Yeah.
It's
And
only those
the
things
only
that I
help
mind.
the only value Facebook would have is if it helps your awakening process. That's the value. So you might, get
Yeah.
access to, some knowledge, or like, you were putting stuff out on Facebook, and then you connected with Giselle, and then that led to her joining. So that would be then, that's the value it has. It's helpful, but in itself, just to use Facebook for propagating an self-concept, because that's really what it's about for most people, to use to propagate their self-concept into the world. Oh, so now I can show the world the self-concept that I want to display, and I can craft it carefully. I can take the right kind of photos, and I can put this image out. Well, that has no value at all, because it's not helpful. It's actually very unhelpful, because it keeps you locked into your egoic illusion.
Yeah.
So almost everything can be reinterpreted by the spirit and be helpful in your spiritual journey. But it only has value to the extent that it's helpful in, awakening, which is a good way to look at value. Then you don't get confused anymore by the ego's misperceptions of value. It thinks that what is valueless actually has great value, and what is truly valuable is valueless. That's what it's done. So it doesn't value spiritual growth or awakening at all, only to the extent maybe that it could reinterpret them into something that increases its self-importance. So the spiritual ego, then it would have value to the ego. Oh, I'll be the spiritual one. But actually undoing itself has no value for it, which I guess would be logical. Of course, it's not going to value that, because it wants to maintain its identity. So it's quite a good learning, and it's a good reminder to keep in mind. What is actually valuable. Okay, well, it's only valuable to the extent that this helps my awakening. So should I go on Facebook or not? Does it serve my awakening? Is this actually going to facilitate my awakening or not? Should I eat that food? Should I watch that movie? Should I, there's many decisions we have to make. Is it serving my awakening or not? Yeah. And if it's not, then why would you bother doing it? It has the activity or whatever it is that ego is calling you to do has no value at all.
Yeah, I think what happens on Facebook is that I only use it for my own work stuff and sharing enlightened stuff, awakening stuff, and then accidentally read somebody else's stuff when they're in their ego, because I find it a little bit of amusing sometimes, like, huh, really? Wow. Oh. And then it's so easy, you could easily go down the rabbit hole and just carry on reading. But I'm very aware that yeah, I don't go down the rabbit hole anymore, but yeah, there's lots of things like that. You can go on YouTube and the next thing comes up and the next thing comes up.
Yeah, you could just
the next thing, and then suddenly
whatever.
You find yourself somewhere you didn't want to go.
And
so yeah,
it lends itself to distraction. So you can engage in, say, social media we're talking about from an egoic perspective, and it can be quite harmful and destructive. Or you can use it as with the spirit's guidance as a tool for awakening, yours and others, and then it has the only value that it has. So you look at the world then differently, don't you? So, well, what has value? What has value about social media is it can be used as a tool for awakening, as a communication tool for awakening people. That's the real value. What has value about some of these technologies like binaural beats? Well, it can use to change your consciousness and wake you up. So that starts to become the arbiter of value, and you don't ascribe arbitrary value to things. You won't go, oh well, that's valuable because the world says it's valuable. That's not you use a different standard.
I've never been into binaural beats, but you mentioned them a couple of times, and I put it on yesterday or the day before, and I just put it on the telly and just left it on for the day, just very gently in the background, peace, binaural beats for peace or something. So it was on at 8 or 9 hours, and I was working in the other room. And after a little while, I realized, it'd been really busy and I was really peaceful. And the dog was sleeping all day, really quiet, and the whole house seemed quiet. So I thought, wow. So I put it on the next day as well. Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yeah, and if you actually put it on in headphones, because it's designed to work with both ears, I find, like when I'm going to sleep, it takes me deeper into sleep. I'll sleep more deeply. So, you're getting out of your 4 or 5 hours sleep, which is generally what I get, maybe 5 hours. It's a deeper sleep, which is the deep sleep is what you want. The rest is not entirely irrelevant, but it's the quality of your deep sleep that's going to give you the rest or not. So if that can take you deeper into deep sleep, into a delta state quicker, and you get into deep sleep, then what a great technology. And so that's helpful. It has value to the extent that it helps the spiritual path and journey, and otherwise it has no value. None of these things have any value. And so you can have the same thing, the same object or tool or whatever it is, and from the ego's perspective, it's valueless. But if you use it for spiritual purposes, it becomes quite valuable.
Yeah, I think it used to annoy the ego, and it used to say, turn it off, it's too noisy. No, don't listen to that. But by having it subtly in the background, that proved to me that it was actually doing something, because I could see the effects. Well, I felt it.
Then that's helpful, because it brings peace into your mind and into the whole house. So use it to help the whole process. One minute. So remember this, value applies only to what is helping that 1 minute. So if you have that as a standard, it helps you discern what is valuable and what is valueless in this world. And where should you put your time and energy and attention? Because you're not going to put it on what's valueless, are you, by definition.
Right.
So it's part of the decision mechanism that he's trying to train us to apply in this training. Okay, so happy with that?
Yeah, very
You're
good.
sorting out. So you see it moves in a progression from there's been a change and it seems like I'm losing something, and then you have to you have to realize that it's helpful, and then in the second stage you have to go, well, why is it helpful? I have to sort out why it's helpful, what is valuable and what's valueless, in order to really sort out in my life what I value and what I don't. And we will tend to resist applying this to all aspects of our life, as he says. So it takes great learning just to get to step 2 and learn step 2. Great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. And it does. I mean, you think of some of the terrible things that can seemingly happen here to people, and he's saying, well, the learning is that it's all helpful, because it all can be used to awaken that person and others, interpret it correctly. But you have to get over the perception of loss on the level of form, because that's going to keep you stuck in valuing what is really valueless, and in the misperceptions of fear and suffering and pain and sorrow and all of that.
I use it for if to come on the call or not. Do I just have a lunch hour where I eat my lunch and look out at the garden, or do I come on the call? Or do I finish up my paperwork? Do I have to do that now, or can I? Yeah, all right, I'll go on the call. It's just like priorities, isn't it?
What is truly valuable? You'll value what is truly valuable, and if you think about people's decision making, faulty decision making, because they're valuing something incorrectly.
Mm.
They value that, whatever it is, thing, person, place, experience, and if it's not good for them, then it's going to cause harm to them and others. But they placed a false value on it. They're actually valuing what is harmful.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, good, a really good decision tool. But you need, obviously, to interpret it, you need the whole of the teaching, to understand, well, what is valuable, is what's serving that one-ment, and then to have the discernment to see that. But that'll take you then, quite far. It's saying it takes great learning. Okay, so you're getting quite advanced now to understand that all things. So it doesn't matter what's happening in your life, how pear-shaped the thing seems to be going. You're saying, well, it's all helpful if you just change your perception and see it that way.
Mm.
But in our human form, it takes great learning because it seems like things are going wrong.
Mm.
It's very difficult to get out of that misperception. Okay, so happy with that one. Let's get into the next one, which is the third stage. Third stage, to which the teacher of
Perfect love. Must go can be called a period of relinquishment. If this is interpreted as giving up the desirable, it will engender enormous conflict. Few teachers of perfect love escape this distress entirely. There is, however, no point in sorting out the valuable from the valueless, unless the next obvious step is taken. Therefore, the period of overlap is apt to be one in which the teacher of perfect love feels called upon to sacrifice his own best interests on behalf of truth. He is not realized as yet how wholly impossible such a demand would be. He can learn this only as he actually does give up the valueless. Through this, he learns that where he anticipated grief, he finds a happy light-heartedness instead. Where he thought something was asked of him, he finds a gift bestowed on him. Yes.
Right, thoughts on that?
No, not really. I like it though.
Period of relinquishment.
Yeah, I feel I practice this.
Yeah, well, you would be. I mean, it's because he's describing the journey of spiritual awakening. So you're on it. You'll recognize these stages and where you're at, and it's kind of ongoing. It's not like you do progress and advance, but this relinquishment, these stages might go on for quite a long time. So they engender enormous conflict, and few teachers perfect love escape this distress entirely.
And it does feel like something's asked of you when you're in the resistance phase. Like, really? You want me to do this? Really? Really? Is this really for my best? Yeah, go with it. And then, then it's all right.
Yeah, you do question if it gets difficult, and sometimes you're being called to do stuff that is difficult, and seemingly there's maybe loss on another level of your experience. So maybe something that you've previously valued is now gone. Relationship, job, whatever form it is, money, that's now gone, and he's saying few teachers of God escape this distress entirely because there's still an attachment to the old form. They're not quite ready to let it go yet. There's no point in sorting out the valuable from the valueless, which is the previous step, unless the next obvious step is taken, which is to let go of the valueless.
Yeah.
You must let it go in your mind.
Mm.
So the period of overlap is one where we still haven't fully committed. We might know this, and yet we're still holding on to something that's actually valueless.
Mm.
We feel called upon to sacrifice our own best interests on behalf of truth. Doesn't realize yet that this is actually impossible, because they wouldn't be your best interest. So truth is always your best interest.
Mm. Yep.
And then he can learn this only as he actually does give up the valueless.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't learn this theoretically. It's actually it's a practice. You must let go of those thoughts, those feelings towards whatever it is that you attach to experience the happy lightheartedness that he talks about.
Yeah.
I thought someone was asked him, he finds a gift bestowed on him. So we're thinking still in terms of sacrifice and difficulty and obligation, and then we find this third stage. Actually, this is fine. It's actually I'm feeling very, very happy and very lighthearted, surprisingly so.
Mm.
Because when you do genuinely let go, then it must happen.
Yeah, it's something the other day I really didn't want to let go of. And then once I let go of it, it just felt so lovely.
You're like, why all the resistance? If it feels so good, why do we resist it so much? Interesting, because the ego's convinced us that listening to it is in our best interest, when in fact it's totally not. Not listening to it is in our best interest.
So now comes a period of settling down. This is a quiet time in which the teacher of pure love, perfect love, rests in a while in reasonable peace. Now he consolidates his learning. Now he begins to see the transfer value of what he has learned. Interesting term, transfer value.
You understand what he means? It can transfer to everywhere. So it's not just in a specific instance. This can transfer to your whole life.
You accidentally
Yes.
Same thing.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened there. Okay, in reasonable peace.
Yeah.
So the first three stages, he's saying, are difficult, and there will be turbulation, and you might find you're not at peace. And only at stage 4 does he say, okay, you're going to be in reasonable peace. It's not yet the peace of God necessary, but it's some way there. You have reasonable peace, you consolidate your learning, and it's a better phase. You're starting to get a handle on the ego and maybe let it go.
So its potential is literally staggering. And the teacher of perfect love is now at the point in his progress at which he sees in it his whole way out. I remember reading that before.
So there does come a point where you go, this is actually going to work. I get it. This is the whole way out of the dream. I've actually found it. the search is over. I know this is going to work. I've just got to keep at it.
Okay. Give up what you do not want and keep what you do. How simple is the obvious and how easy to do. The teacher of perfect love needs this period of respite. He has not yet come as far as he thinks. Yet when he is ready to go on, he goes with mighty companions beside him. Now he rests a while and gathers them before going on. He will not go on from here alone. Oh, that's comforting, isn't it?
Yeah, so a lot of people go, well, what are the mighty companions? Are we talking about people? Or is he talking about other entities like angels or guides?
Is it not all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, he's not saying, it's up to your interpretation, but goes with mighty companions beside him. There's certainly referring to people. And so often we journey with people, we have other people, friends, possibly family on the same path, on the spiritual path. And because of that, we can relate to them, connect to them better than with other people. Because we're all heading in the same direction. And then there's the possibility of other mighty companions that are incorporeal.
Yeah.
That are not of this world. They don't have a body, but they are there guiding you and helping you on your journey. So that's whatever. Angels, ascended masters, people channel all kinds of things, and I've always been a little bit skeptical of that. But the main thing is, is it helpful? Because some people can't access spirit directly because it's too abstract. So they have to access it through a form that they can believe in.
Yeah.
So, I'll access it through an ascended master called whatever you want to call him, Saint Germain or one of these ascended masters. And then because it's apparently coming to this ascended master, I can accept the teaching. Otherwise I wouldn't. So does that explain it?
Yeah.
So we're not alone. Really, I think what he's saying is that the entire universe, this is the universal at one-ment, and it's happening in and through you. You become aligned with that, and so these miraculous forces that are there always trying to awaken the dream are there with you.
Yeah.
And so you can feel, you don't have to feel fearful. You can feel quite calm and peaceful and certain because the help, the support, the guidance is there. On this physical level, people can show up in your life that are very helpful, and incorporeal as well. Maybe there's guides that speak to you, and that things come in a helpful way. Movies, synchronicity. This is the idea of synchronicity. The more synchronicity happens in your life, the more you're rooted in your being, the more this kind of stuff starts to happen. So you can see where synchronicity and flow and the spiritual journey then intersect quite clearly here in this. It's really a teaching on the spiritual journey. Okay. Period of settling down. Just settle down there for a few seconds. Nice. Peace. Quiet time. Consolidate your learning. And you prepare for the next phase, which is, as he says, is indeed a period of unsettling. So we go back into difficulty. Period of unsettling. Okay, let's translate this. I'm going to read from the next stage.
The next stage is indeed a period of unsettling. Now must the teacher of perfect love understand that he did not really know what was valuable and what was valueless. All that he really learned so far was that he did not want the valueless and that he did want the valuable. Yet his own sorting out was meaningless in teaching him the difference. The idea of sacrifice, so central to his own thought system, had made it impossible for him to judge. He thought he learned willingness, but now he sees he does not know what the willingness is for. And now he must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long, long time. He must learn to lay all judgment aside and ask only what he really wants in every circumstance. Were not each step in this direction so heavily reinforced, it would be hard indeed. I feel like we've gone back a step here.
Mm-hmm.
It was like we were moving along nicely in the last one. And now it's like saying,
I think that's what he's talking about here is the final letting go. It's like, okay, am I actually willing to really let it all go? Thought he learned willingness. So often we think we've come further than we have, and then he does not know what the willingness is for. Must learn to lay all judgment aside. Ask only what he really wants in every circumstance. So all judgment is the ego's judgment of things. It's judged through the separate self. Things are good or bad, rough or difficult or easy, whatever the judgments are in your mind. And he's saying, lay all that aside and just be guided. Just coming from pure formless awareness of perfect love, which knows no judgment. Just be guided intuitively as to what you should do. And everything's going to be okay. But it can be very difficult to really surrender. It's okay, that's it. You know, I'm letting go of all of my judgments, all of my attachment to this world. I'm willing to let it all go. And then he's saying again, you know, were not each step in this direction so heavily reinforced, it would be hard indeed. So there is reinforcement. There's help. Remember, if you look on the hero's journey, there's our hero's journey. So we've come down the track, and there's always help and guidance on the path. Helpers are there, and you're now getting to the final stage. You know, this is a difficult stage because this would be the death and the rebirth, going into the abyss, and going, actually, I've come all this way. I've learned. I thought I'd learned a lot, but when it comes to it, you know, I'm really it's struggling to fully let go of the ego. It's fighting its last fight. So I interpret this stage as being the stage of this final. Was not the final, because final act is the hero returns, but really the key part of the transformation is to go through that. Yeah. And any other similarities you can see between them? Well, let's finish it first, and then we can have a look at it and see what similarities or differences you can see. So in this, as opposed to the hero's journey.
I really want to hear the end of the story of this one. I'm so tired. My eyes are blurring. I'll see how
Yeah.
long I keep going.
We've only got one paragraph, so be pleased
Okay.
to know. So, but I find if I'm tired, it's kind of quite a nice meditative state. You just kind of go in there, and like sometimes you just sit for a few seconds, and there's a peace that arises. So
Mm.
kind of
And then the snoring starts.
kind of moving kind of a meditation.
Been a long day, a lot going on. Ready
Yeah.
for bed. Okay, and finally,
Finally.
there is a period of achievement. It is here that learning is consolidated. Now what was seen as merely shadows becomes solid gains to be counted on in all emergencies as well as tranquil times. Indeed, the tranquility is their result. Oh, yeah. The outcome of honest learning, consistency of thought, and full transfer. This is the state of real peace, for here is heaven's state fully reflected.
So heaven's state is
State of pure formless awareness.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the state of pure formless awareness is fully reflected. From here, the way to pure formless awareness is open and easy. In fact, it is here. In fact, it is here, full stop. Who would go anywhere if peace of mind is, I don't know what that says underneath the cursor. Peace of mind is already complete. And who would seek to change tranquility for something more desirable? What could be more desirable than this? Yeah, quiet.
Mm.
Mm.
So this is the final stage. So this is post in the hero's journey. This is post the death and rebirth. You've gone through that transformation, which would be the last stage. That's why it's a period of unsettling.
Yeah.
So the ego just has to be totally unsettled or unseated, and then you live in this peaceful, post enlightenment, very very peaceful, tranquil state, and you realize, well, it's here now. Heaven is not anywhere else. I don't need to go anywhere. It's in my experience right now, and you carry that peace wherever you go. You bring it back into the world, so you now become the teacher of peace, teacher of God, teacher of love, teacher of peace in the world to others.
Mm. That's the plan.
And so you can see, okay, this is broken down into more detail, but these 6 stages that we've just been through are roughly the same.
Mm.
So I'm just going to call on decline that. These 6 stages are roughly the same, and as this hero's journey. So because the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell studied it was a universal. It was his take on the spiritual journey from all the different mythologies and whatever. So this is Yeshua's, and you go, well, there's an overlap. Starts with something seeming to go wrong, moves through phases of letting go, sorting out, letting go. All of this is part of that. The hero's learning. Okay, well, what's true and what's not, and has to cross the threshold. Would be a decision saying, okay, I'm up for this. I'm going to do this. So that would be probably stage 1, when you learn that everything is helpful. Everything is helpful. These changes are always helpful. And the teacher of perfect love has learned that much. He goes on to onto the second stage. So it's kind of being able to look at that call to adventure and everything and say it's helpful, and it's helpful because it's taking me somewhere, it's taking me on my journey. So yeah, just useful to cross reference. There does seem to be a universal call.
Yeah, and as soon as you cross the threshold, it all kicks off.
Yeah, because you're saying I'm willing, so I'm willing to then undertake the next stages. And notice, his emphasis on help here. He talked about help and guidance and support. Well, that's also a big part of the hero's journey. You will get the help and the guidance and support on the journey, inevitably. But you must commit. You get the help, but you must commit. That's really how the hero's journey works. No one's going to do it for you. You commit, you keep pushing forward, you have the faith, and then help shows up in various ways. Because this is, the universal call, and the spirit wants you and everyone to take this journey. So it's going to assist you. We'll find a way within the dream world to do that. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the 6 stages. First one was a period of undoing. To do a quick review. So that was something's been undone. You think you've lost something, but you need to recognize that it's actually very helpful. That moves you on to the second stage, which is a period of sorting out. So you must then decide what is truly valuable in your life in order to progress on the journey. What's valuable, what's valueless. So you're sorting out those two in your mind. And stage 3 is kind of the next evolution of that. You must actually, once you've decided what's valuable and what's valueless, you must actually let go. Period of relinquishment. Interpreters giving up the desirable will engender enormous conflict. So you let go of what's not valuable, which is rooting you, attaching you to this form, identity, and that takes you to the next stage, which is a period of settling down. So there's peace that comes in that, and often in this stage you think you're there, but you're not quite there because you haven't gone through the abyss. You might be growing, and there's a period where it's actually okay. I'm growing, I'm learning, but you haven't yet gone through this, which is this period of unsettling that he's talking about, where you realize that actually you didn't know. You thought you knew, but you didn't really know what is valuable and valueless. And now you actually have to let go of what is valueless, and that's hard. That's letting go of your entire identity, of the world, and there's a struggle. He said this may take a long time. I must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long time. To really lay all ego judgment aside. A lot of people get again confused with the judgment, because there's 2 kinds of judgment. The Holy Spirit's judgment, which is the discernment that's enabling you to make the right choice, what's valuable and what's valueless. Well, that clearly is a function of judgment. But he's talking about egoic judgment in the sense of condemning, making something sinful and guilty. That kind of judgment needs to be laid aside. Let's learn to, should we change that to let go? Lay aside all judgment, to let go of all judgment. That may be better.
Yeah, makes more sense. Anyway, I've got to go, Jono.
Okay, well, thanks for joining.
Thank you, it's good.
I'll send this out just now, so you have the document.
Yeah.
You can read if you want.
Yeah.
So thanks for helping me do this. It's very helpful to do the translation for someone else.
I know. Okay, thanks a lot. See you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Namaste. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the session. Thanks for listening, and if you're on the group, I'll send you this document very shortly, so you can read it as part of your spiritual practice tonight. See you tomorrow, hopefully at 12:30 UK time, 2:30 PM SA time. Have a lovely evening. Namaste, which means the awakened self in me acknowledges and honors that same awakened self.